Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be very different than what I normally do. For those of you who don't know, my channel is mostly a react and review channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at who is the better main character between Percy Jackson and Harry Potter. The reason being is the Percy Jackson show is coming out in a few weeks in December, and I am definitely 100% reacting to that with you guys, because that book series is one of my favorite book series of all time. I love it so much. It means a lot to me. And the Harry Potter franchise also means quite a lot to me. The main reason I'm doing this comparison between the two main characters of the Harry Potter series and of the Percy Jackson series is, well, because it's going to be a popular topic here soon, and I'm more than willing to talk about them because I have my opinions. Now, one of the main reasons why the Percy Jackson series is such an important series to me is I first read that book, the first book, The Lightning Thief, right after I got kicked out of a school and right before I got diagnosed with ADHD. So I could, as a former delinquent, I could relate to Percy quite well. And the Harry Potter movies specifically helped me get through some real tough times growing up, and they mean a lot to me. I've been listening to the Harry Potter books quite a lot, and I did read them. It was, in fact, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was the first chapter book that I had ever read. So those are kind of my credentials. I've read and or listened to the Percy Jackson and Harry Potter books an enormous amount of times, and I know quite a lot about the both universes. Not an expert by any means, but I do think I am well qualified in looking at both characters, and they both mean enough to me to where I think I could give a fair but accurate judgment on which one was the better MC. Now, I'm going to be scoring this book by book. Going from book 1 to book 2, book 3, so forth and so on. And the three categories that they are able to score on is feats, lessons learned, and better story. Who had a better story. The feats are pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it's what did they accomplish in the book, and the lessons learned is, these are, young adult books, so there are usually lessons attached to the books themselves, and we'll get into that when it comes up. But without further ado, I think we can just hop right in with the first book of the Percy Jackson series and the first book of the Harry Potter series. Alright, in book 1 of the Percy Jackson series, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, Percy is 12 years old and a New Yorker, and is an agent of chaos. You see, he starts, we're gonna start with the feats for all of these books. We'll start with the feats, we'll see what they've accomplished, we'll do the lesson, and then we'll see which one's the better story. And what Percy manages to accomplish in his very first book is the following. You see, he starts off the book by killing a Fury with literally no training. Then he kills a Minotaur with an equal amount of no training after watching his mom die. And then proceeds to 1v5 Ares' cabin and kind of kicks their butt pretty aggressively. He's then sent on a quest to find the lightning bolt that is Zeus's main weapon. He's secretly on this thing to find his mom and get her back. But almost right off the bat, he manages to piss off all 3 Furies by blowing them up in a bus. I don't think they died. In fact, I'm pretty sure they don't, because I think they scream for reinforcements. But still, now that is directly followed by him decapitating Medusa and sending her head to Mount Olympus as a big FU to the gods, because he was very upset with how he's being treated by the gods. Then he fights Echidna, the mother of monsters, barely manages to escape by jumping off the top of the arch in Michigan? One of those states near the Great Lakes. I can't remember. I can never remember where it is. Then he challenges Ares, who gives him a quest to find his shield and has to fight a literal sea of spiders. Then gets trapped in the Lotus Hotel, manages to break the spell and escape, and then Percy proceeds to bargain a salesman to death and has one of the coldest lines in all of book history. He then plays fetch with Cerberus and, does the right thing by, leaving his mom in the underworld in order to save the rest of the world. And then, right after escaping the underworld, he proceeds to 1v1 the god of war and kick his butt. And then he flies home and saves the day. And from what I could gather in this first book, the main lesson you could argue is the right choice isn't always the easiest choice, because he had to leave his mom in the underworld. And also don't touch Percy's mom is probably the other lesson in the book. Now, moving on to Harry Potter. In the first book, I'm going to be honest. Harry doesn't really do much. He doesn't really accomplish much. To be fair, he's a year younger than Percy. He's only 11 in the first book. But here are his following accomplishments in the first book. He sets a snake on his cousin accidentally. Finds out he's a wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Stops a troll.
Troll bogies.
Quite literally performs no magic in the entire book and movie. I checked. You could argue, he used magic to defeat Voldemort at the end, which is the last thing he did. But it wasn't even his magic. It was his mother's magic. Not to discredit his mom's sacrifice, but that's not really him accomplishing defeating Voldemort again. Even though, now I say that out loud, the first time he didn't even defeat Voldemort. His mom kicked Voldemort's butt twice. To be fair, the main lesson of the first Harry Potter book is actually really, really sweet. It's really, really endearing, and it's love that conquers all. And, honestly, I really like that. I could totally appreciate that mentality. Now, onto the scoring of the first book. Feats-wise, Percy's unmatched. This first book, Percy accomplishes so much and is almost unchallenged in this first book. I mean, he was able to accomplish all of this in 377 pages, whereas in Harry Potter, it's 320 pages, so a little bit shorter, not much, a little bit shorter, and still does not accomplish nearly as much as Percy. So feats-wise, I'm going to have to give it to Percy. Lesson-wise, I'm going to give it to both of them. I think they both deserve the lesson, because both lessons are equally good. Doing the right thing isn't always the easiest is a lesson that we can all live by, and love conquers all is also a lesson I think we could all live by. Now, when it comes to the better story, this is going to get a little controversial. I might lose a couple of followers or whatever for saying this, but the first Percy Jackson book was significantly better than the first Harry Potter book. There just was so much filler. Don't get me wrong, this was a children's book, but still, there isn't enough that happens in the first book that really continues the story. Even them taking out the troll, the only thing it really does is solidify their friendship, which I mean is a good thing. It is a strong good thing, but it doesn't really drive the plot much further than that. And for the fact that both books are almost the same length, they're just under 400 pages roughly, both of them. You can tell that Percy was able to do more, and the world building in the first book of Percy Jackson was significantly better in my opinion. To be fair, it was set in the real world kind of, but still, I have to give it to Percy. So, going into the second book, Percy is in the lead with 3 points, while Harry is behind with 1 point. Now, the second Harry Potter book and the second Percy Jackson book are a different story than the first one, and I'm meaning that almost literally. Alright, in book 2, The Chamber of Secrets, Harry is 12 years old. And in my personal opinion, book 2 of Harry Potter is significantly better than book 1. And you could almost argue from an objective point of view, it is better than the first one. Feats-wise, Harry accomplishes quite a bit. I mean, he manages to escape his aunt and uncle. He learns more about the wizarding world outside of Hogwarts, which you could argue is like not a feat, but in my opinion, knowledge in of itself is a feat. It's something that you've accomplished. And so him learning about the wizarding world, it was an accomplishment.
It's not much, but it's home. I think it's brilliant.
He did some real detective work on the Chamber of Secrets. To be fair, most of that was Hermione, but still, he contributed at least. I really appreciated the overcoming of the crisis of being possibly the so many great grandson of Slytherin. That also is something that you could argue is not a feat, but in my opinion, overcoming mental anguish is a feat in and of itself. So I have to give him credit for that. He manages not to have an ego, even though he's defeated Voldemort twice now. It's really impressive that he's able to have this understanding of who he is. He learns Expelliarmus, which is one of his key spells. He fights off a bunch of spiders.
Well, thank you. We'll just go.
He discovers the Chamber of Secrets, which is something that the teachers of Hogwarts who have been there for a millennium had ever done before.
This is it, Ron. I think this is the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets.
He kills the basilisk with a sword, proving that he's, a good Gryffindor boy. And, unbeknownst to him, destroys part of Voldemort's soul.
What do you do? Stop. No!
He also saves Jenny, and he frees Dobby. All of these things are really amazing feats. He accomplishes so much and is able to do so much that it's inspiring. From a second book in the series point of view. Now, the lesson that I got from this book is,
it is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
And that is a phenomenal lesson. I really and truly like that lesson. Now, the second book of the Percy Jackson series is not my favorite. In fact, out of the 5 books that are the first original books of Percy Jackson, it is my least favorite out of all of the books. You see, Percy spends the entire book losing. And I don't get me wrong, it builds a lot of character and it builds a lot for who he is, but still, he spends the entire book losing. It starts off by him fighting giant cannibals with his friend Tyson. He fights off metal bulls with Tyson. Finds out that Tyson is actually a cyclops because he could never bring himself to look at Tyson's face. Finds out that said cyclops brother Tyson is in fact his brother, also son of Poseidon. He eventually goes on a quest to heal the tree that protects their camp. It's called Talia's tree. But more importantly, to save his friend Grover. He sneaks onto a cruise liner, which is not easy by any means. Fights off a bunch of monsters. Goes into hiding until a Hydra finds him. And then he's saved by Clarice, who is the leader of the Ares cabin. And then she uses a Civil War submarine, which is cool in some ways. And they're riding around on this submarine and they get absolutely gollywopped. So when they decided to abandon ship, Percy went to go save his brother, and the ship, to quite literally quote the book, went boom. So he thought he lost his brother Tyson. He then gets turned into a hamster, gets unturned into a hamster, steals Blackbeard's boat, goes to the island that Grover is hiding on, fights the Cyclops that was, holding Grover, rescues him, but Annabeth gets hurt really, really bad, so he carries her with a golden fleece on his back. Then he gets captured by Luke, 1v1's Luke, loses, is saved by Chiron, and then the day is all good. He kind of saved the day a little too well, if we're being honest here. And honestly, the lesson that I got from this book was losing is the best teacher. Starting off feats wise, Percy got, like I said, he got the crap beat out of him. For the majority of the book, he was losing and didn't really honestly accomplish anything. Like everything that he did didn't contribute too much to the overall plot of the story, which for him being the main character is a lot to say. Harry manages to accomplish so much in his book, mentally overcoming things and doing that kind of thing, that I'm gonna have to give the feats. Honestly, I'm gonna have to give it to Harry in the second book. It's better. I also can really appreciate him setting Dobby free. That it weirds me out that he was not a bigger part in trying to give them more rights in the wizarding world. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but we'll get into that when we get into it. As for the lesson, I'm also going to give it to Harry, because, don't get me wrong, losing is the greatest teacher, but understanding that our abilities don't define us is a better lesson, in my personal, humble opinion. And story-wise, once again, I gotta give it to Harry. I genuinely enjoy the Chamber of Secrets a lot more than I enjoy Sea of Monsters. In my opinion, it's an easier, nicer read. Don't get me wrong, there's an entire freaking chapter that I can't stand for some reason in the Chamber of Secrets. It's the Death Day Party. I don't know what it is about that chapter. I always skip it because I genuinely don't enjoy reading it. Going into book number 3, we have the scores, with Harry now in the lead with 4 points, and Percy just behind with 3. And when it comes to book 3, we're gonna have a conversation about book 3, because it's a doozy. Book 3, I'm going to start with Percy. Book 3 is called Titan's Curse. and Percy is 13 years old, so same age as he was the last book, because it hasn't even been a full year. That's why Sea of Thieves really just kind of rubs me the wrong way, because it really feels like an in-between book. But focusing on book 3. In book 3, Percy goes on a loose quest to save 2 demigods from a Frenchman, which, you know, fair enough. But unfortunately he loses Annabeth. And then he goes out on his own to find her, even though there were a group of hunters who were the followers of Artemis who went with some campers to go on said quest to find people, including Annabeth. Anyways, he goes out on his own. He manages to convince Dionysus to let him go, which is saying something because he really doesn't like heroes. Then he saves the questers from a undead saber-toothed tiger, earns the respect of the hunters, which is saying something, travels across country again, rides a wild boar, fights a gigantic animatronic, and loses Bianca, which is a real major blow because he had promised Bianca's little brother that he would keep her safe, which I don't know why he decided to do that, but he did it. Climbs Mount Tamus, and with the questers, fights Atlas, realizes that he can't fight Atlas, so he bears the weight of the sky. So Artemis could go fight Atlas. He convinces the gods to spare Bessie, aka Ophiutorus, which is not an easy feat because if you know anything about the Greek gods, they are blood hungry. And then is told that he's destined to, determine the fate of the world, basically. And one of the main lessons that I got from this book, and probably the best lesson I got from this book, is spilling innocent blood to stop a war is almost, if not just as evil as starting said war. And that's a really, really deep lesson. Book 3 of Harry Potter that's a challenge for me because the third Harry Potter movie is by far my favorite movie in the Harry Potter series. I love that movie with so much passion, I guess. But the book is not as good as the movie. And that's weird to say because usually the book is better than the movie. And in the case of the third book, I personally believe the movie is better. I think they do a lot better cutting in the movie than they do in the book. But I mean, don't get me wrong, Harry does accomplish quite a bit. You know, he blows up his aunt.
Don't you dare!
Sorry.
He once again escapes from his aunt and uncles.
Keep away from me.
He's told that he's being hunted by a wanted man who escaped in an inescapable prison and rolls with the punches. Discovers that he's suffered a lot more than most people because he fainted whenever a Dementor is around. Finds out that Sirius is the reason that, his parents are dead, so he swears revenge.
Because when he does, I'm gonna be ready. When he does, I'm gonna kill him.
Learns how to cast a Patronus, aka his other spell that he uses. Discovers the truth about what happened, which is no easy feat. Knocks out Snape and spares a rat.
Expelliarmus! I said we'd take you to the castle. After that, the Dementors can have you.
Survives a werewolf attack and almost gets kissed by a Dementor. Goes back in time because that's a thing. And saves Buckbeak and himself. And Sirius, of course.
Expecto Patronum!
And I think the main lesson that can be learned from this book is loved ones never really leave us. They're always with us. And that's a really sweet and sentimental, lesson. But let's be honest here. If the final act of this book, the final act being the time travel, was not in the book, it would almost literally just be Harry going to school. The entire book is just him going to classes. With that being said, I'm gonna have to give the feats to Percy. He just does so much more. It's so much more entertaining, which is weird to say because I love the Harry Potter books. But lesson-wise, I'm gonna give it to both of them. I think they both deserve the lesson point. They both had really good lessons, and I can really appreciate that. And for who has the better story, this may be my favorite Harry Potter movie, but it is not my favorite Harry Potter book. And this is it's my second favorite I guess third. It's my third favorite Percy Jackson book. So I'm gonna have to give the better story to Percy Jackson, which brings us into book 4 with score of 6 for Percy and 5 for Harry. So it's still very neck and neck. Very, very neck and neck. We're coming up on the end. Now, it was at this moment that I realized I sucked at math. So I don't know if you guys have been following along, but if you don't know, there are 5 Percy Jackson books and 7 Harry Potter books, which means that I cannot continue going book by book by book, because eventually I will run out of Percy Jackson books, and the whole point of this was not to bring in the Heroes of Olympus series, because that is just not fair. So with that being said, I'm going to sum up book 4 and 5 of the Harry Potter series and compare it to book 4 of the Percy Jackson series. As for book 4, Harry Potter accomplishes quite a bit. I mean, he survives the Triwizard Tournament by taking on a dragon, a sphinx, a mermaids.
But she's my friend too.
Voldemort again.
Have it your way.
It's weird that a 56-year-old man was hunting a child. That just kind of, once again, really weird. He also suffers a great deal of PTSD, which is always good to see when your main characters are suffering, I guess. But aside from the Triwizard Tournament, and he does accomplish quite a bit in the Triwizard Tournament, there isn't very much he does aside from that. I will admit, the one thing that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way in this book specifically is the fact that he was not a more active member of SPEW, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, basically making it to where elves could, be free and not slaves. And the fact that he kind of like rubbed it under, or pushed it under the rug and didn't do anything with that really kind of bugged me. I didn't like that. But as for book 5, now I'm gonna be honest. Book 5 is really good in the Harry Potter series. It's really, really good. I love book 5. He becomes Bully Potter. Instead of Bully Maguire, we got Bully Potter, because he's really in the dark and he's really sick of people's stuff. Also, book 5 has the best villain in all of any book series, Dolores Umbridge, Miss Toadface herself. And that really and truly bumps up the score for that book. The final act in the book is also really, really good. It does a lot of world building when it comes, or I say world building, a lot of definitive building for the way that magic works. And also, I really like, unlike in the movie where Sirius is straight up killed, in the book, it's much more portrayed as an accident. He gets hit with what can only be described as a stunning spell and falls through the veil. So when he uses the Cruciatus Curse later on, and personally for me, it's more impactful in the book than in the movie, because it means it means that he was willing to hurt somebody for an accident. As for the lessons for book 4 and 5, I think that for book 4, it's honoring those who have passed is how you can move on. And for book 5 is love is the greatest shield for evil. So the book 4 and 5, Percy Jackson, of Harry Potter, I'm smashing them together, comparing them to book 4 of Percy Jackson, which is my favorite book in the Percy Jackson series, so I'm probably going to be a little biased here. Book 4 of Percy Jackson, he manages to accomplish an insane amount of things. He, goes on a quest to basically solve the labyrinth that has been around for 2,000 years. Basically kills an unkillable man who is also his half-brother. Cleans a lot of horse poop. Gives hope to the 100-Hand ones, or specifically the 100-Hand one, because the rest are all dead. Basically, blew up Mount St. Helens, and almost literally died, but came back because he's just that good. Received the blessing of Pan, solved the maze, and then fought wave after wave after wave of the Titan army as they tried to invade Camp Half-Blood, managing to command the army of Camp Half-Blood successfully and with minimal casualties. They still had, they still lost people, but it was a less amount than what would have probably happened. And it was genuinely an amazing story. Like I said, it is my favorite series or favorite book in the entire series. It's crazy. And I can't think of a lesson for the 4th book. I think it's just building up to the final book. It's weird that I don't like book 2 when book 4 is almost the same, and the fact that it is a in-between book. But when it comes to feats, I'm giving it to both. They both do a phenomenal job in these 2 books. And they thrived as main characters. And for lessons, I'm giving it to Harry for default, because as far as I'm aware, book 4 of the Percy Jackson series doesn't have a lesson. So that leaves the which one was the better story. Now, Percy was able to accomplish just as much, if not more, than what Harry was able to accomplish in 2 books in 1 book. And I can't discredit that. Also, the fact that I'm having to compare 2 books to 1 book, totally not because I'm bad at math, should say something. So I am unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which side of this war you're on, going to have to give the better story to Percy Jackson. And it is also totally not because that is just my favorite book of all time, period. But that brings us to the scores, where Percy is at a whole 8, solid 8, and Harry is at a 7. So he's 1 point behind, and we're on the final book/books. Who's gonna win? It's neck and neck. We're about to find out. I know because I wrote a script, but you don't know. So I guess you gotta stick with the video so you can find out. So I guess we'll move on. Book 5, Percy Jackson. The Last Olympian. The Last Olympian. I don't know why I couldn't remember. I was thinking the Battle of Olympus. It's the Battle of Labyrinth mixed with the Last Olympian. For it being the final book in the original Percy Jackson series, it ties up a lot of loose ends, and Percy does an immense and insane amount of things, and accomplishes an immense and insane amount of things. Starting off with taking a little dip in the River of Styx, basically becoming the next Achilles, and honestly did not slow down from there until the credits roll. After taking a little dip in the River of Styx, he ends up, just literally destroying most of New York in the middle of a battle, right? He accomplishes some of his most wildest feats here in this book, starting off with the Styx thing and then going on to making Prometheus feel bad. Then he destroys one of the bridges in New York by, sinking it in the ocean. Then he, kills so many monsters, like an insane amount of monsters. He fights the Titan of Fire and kicks his butt with the help of Grover. Turns him into a tree, actually. Manages to literally convince Kronos to kill himself. And honestly, this book is amazing. And it just doesn't quit the entire series. It's got some of the best, romance scenes, which, oh my god, I'll move when I get to the Harry Potter series. I'll get to the Harry Potter series, but like romance scenes wise, Percy Jackson is peak. You can feel the awkward teen tension between the romance between Percy and Annabeth. Like, great, loved it. Love everything about this whole book series, but this book is really good. It's a good way to end the series, a good way to end Percy Jackson, and honestly, the lesson for book 5 is something that I think we could all live by, and it's never too late to change. I really, 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 really like that lesson because I live by that lesson every day. It's such a good thing to take to heart, and honestly, it's giving Potter a little bit of a hefty competition. So let's see what good old Potter's got in the last 2 books of his series. Book 6 in the Harry Potter series is absolutely amazing. I loved every chapter in that book. I really, really like book 6. In fact, it's my favorite book in the series because it manages to accomplish something that a lot of series don't really do, and tells the backstory of Voldemort from the point of view of people around him, which is crazy to think about. I think this book is the best when it comes to storytelling. I think it is the most compelling when it comes to storytelling, and I really and truly think that he was able to accomplish so much. Some of the feats that Harry Potter manages to do in book 6 is, the bathroom duel, the Battle of the Astronomy Tower, his duel between Snape and Harry.
Fight back! You coward, fight back!
Really, really good storytelling. Also, the twist where Snape was the Half-Blood Prince is crazy. It's great. Which is unfortunate because book 7, on the other hand, it's kind of a snore. Book 7 does not bode well. And this may be controversial, I'm not sure, amongst Harry Potter fans. Deathly Hallows is boring. It really is. It's genuinely boring. And I have never hated a chapter in a book more than I hate the chapter where they go into ministry. There were so many stupid decisions that they should have done, and so many things that made no sense that I hate it. I hated it so much. Also, they spend 3/4 of the book freaking starving when they have magic. Literally, they watched Dean summon a salmon from the river and still starving? Really? Doesn't make any sense. I don't like that. Now the battle for Hogwarts is some of the best battle-written scenes I've ever read. It's insane. I love every single death, which is really weird to say, but I do. They're extremely impactful. They mean something. It's difficult because of how boring and bad the first 3/4 of the book are, because the last chunk are really good. One thing that I really do need to address is how what Percy does after the book series. And you see Harry becomes a wizard cop and is working for the same people that he spent the entire book 5 fighting against. And that really rubs me the wrong way. It just doesn't fit well with his personality and how he acted to join the same people that he spent pretty much the entire series fighting against. And just to compare, because we're looking at who's the better main character, right? And we're looking at that. So to compare, Percy reforms Olympus. He reforms what it means to be a god. He sacrifices godhood in order to get the gods to acknowledge their children and prevent the war from ever happening again. And Harry becomes a wizard cop and is the same people that he spent the majority of the book series fighting against. And I don't like that. It doesn't make sense with his personality, with what he did, who he was. He had a real problem with authority, which is something that I really liked about Harry, and he just kind of threw it away because he's a wizard cop now, and I don't like that. Time to give my final scoring for the stories. Overall story of Harry Potter books 6 and 7 versus book 5 of the Percy Jackson series, story-wise, I'm giving it to Percy. Don't get me wrong. If it was just book 6 versus book 5 of Percy and Harry, I would probably give book 6 Harry, aka Half-Blood Prince, over the Last Olympian. But with how boring book 7 is, and it being the final book of the series, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm giving it to Percy. When it comes to, and like I said, go ahead, call me biased. I am. This is my opinion. So it is not an unbiased opinion. Don't get me wrong. When it comes to lessons, I'm giving it to Percy again. I mean, book 7 didn't really have a lesson. Maybe you could argue. You know what? You could argue love conquers all is the same lesson of book 7 as it was book 1, which you could either say is really, really good and kind of cool, or really boring and not cool, kind of a cop-out. It depends on your point of view, from a certain point of view. So when it comes down to it, I'm gonna give it to Percy because I don't like reused material. I like originality, and honestly, the lesson, it's never too late to change, is an extremely important lesson that people need to learn. You can always change, you can always be better, and I really appreciate that. And when it comes down to the story, I mean, I kind of crapped on Harry for a while there, and that probably would reveal what my score for who is the better story-wise for the last books. It's going to Percy again. So, with a final score of 11, Percy wins. And in all honesty, this was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a landslide on Percy's part. I'm not going to lie. But Harry, I mean, there's a reason those books are so popular. There's a reason those movies are so popular. I mean, they mean a lot to a lot of people, and they mean a lot to me. So if you guys agree with my Percy opinion, or the fact that he's the better MC, let me know in the comments. And if you don't, let me know in the comments as well. But you gotta convince me. You gotta come up with an argument, and keep it civil in the comments. We're a civil YouTube channel, not a fighting YouTube channel. And as of recording this, it's going to be edited down, but as of recording this, it has been 53 minutes. So I'm gonna say that's enough of a video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.